Hello, could you please introduce yourself and tell us where we are right now?
Hi, I am Jaki Canterberry, and you and I are sitting in Slowfiber in downtown Monterey.
Okay, slowfiber. This is a brick and mortar shop. Can you talk just really briefly about what this shop is?
This shop is a maker, mender, supply who peddles in pre-owned as well as new sourced, sustainable maker supplies that help build community, and which is kind of a fun accident. But my goal is to be like the gateway to becoming a maker. So lots of beginner everything, lots of ways to dabble and try things for the first time, and hopefully building your personal agency towards home ec and being a little bit more involved in your closet.
I love it. And speaking of closet, can you talk about your sweater?
Yes, it says exclamation point, knit exclamation point. And this sweater, I sheared this sheep about 25 years ago. I am not a sheep owner, but I have friends. And I spun the yarn and I knit the sweater, and I used a pattern, knitting from the top down is the name of the book, and that has become the standard for how sweaters are constructed now. Everybody's doing one-piece sweaters, but this comes from the kind of early days of the one-piece sweater. Yeah.
And I would be remiss if I did not ask, because we were with the Backyard Green Film Crew, an ag forward group. What type of sheep?
This is a Gulf Coast sheep, which is a small animal. I was in Oklahoma at the time, and they originate in Louisiana because it's a small down breed who doesn't get hoof rot. So it does well in soggy ground.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. And being in Monterey, that would be an ideal type of sheep to have in this area.
Yeah, maybe.
And I don't know many Gulf raisers in this area.
Yeah, no, this was Oklahoma. But yeah, I was in Oklahoma at the time. I had a friend who was raising Gulf Coast sheep and cattle.
All right, so this was 20 years ago, you said?
Oh, 25 plus. 25 plus.
We're going to go back in time. Okay. Can you talk about your earliest memory of being a maker, working with textiles?
Sure.
Go for it.
I was one of the lucky kids. I grew up in that house where we were allowed to climb the walls, jump on the beds, make weird things in the kitchen, waste ingredients, as long as we put it all back. And so everything was fair game. So, you know, Barbie clothes out of toilet paper and scraps. And I think the very first time I knew that I was in, I made a pair of little shoes. I think I'm 8 years old, 7 years. My mom says I started sewing at 7 on the machine, and I'd get in there and gum it up, and she'd come ungum it, and I'd gum it up, and she'd come. But I made a pair of shoes out of cotton balls and cardboard and a stapler and tape and some fabric from my mom's sewing box. And they were just a little pair of slides, and I wore them till they fell apart. Yeah, and they were yellow and awful, and I loved that I had my own shoes, yeah, and they were cloth. And so, but since then, I've just wanted every garment, every weird thing that every culture has ever made. I want that. Yeah.
And you model that because you wear the clothes that you make, and you not only, you know, show that you can do it, you provide a space for people to be able to do this.
Yes.
So let's talk about what makes this shop really different. Now, I'm gonna use a word, and I don't know how you're gonna feel about it, but as a customer, when I come in here, it's magical. So can you talk about what it is, the community that you've built here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I do that maybe other stores don't do is I'll do all of my personal work here outside of shop hours so that I can be here with you. You have a question, I'm going to answer it. You don't know how to do a thing, I'm going to make them wait, and I'm going to show you. I think that customer service has become flat and impersonal, and I'm making friends while I'm here. I'm making friends. I want you to leave here feeling better than when you walked in, because this is a place for insecurities to flourish. And I'm always trying to hold those for people, you know, because you walk in here. One of the things that happens when people walk in here is they say, well, my mom's the sewer, my sister's the sewer, my grandmother was. And how I understand how to translate that. Now, what that means is somebody somewhere in your life told you weren't good enough. And I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid with you. No, you are good enough, and we're going to help you unpack that if that's what you'd like to do. And we'll start at the beginning. And we have beginner this, we have friendship that, we have group this. Yeah, I'm trying to be the hug that textiles needs for getting through the door.
And that's such a perfect description, because I remember clearly the first time I set foot in here. It was back during pandemic time period, and I remember walking through the door all masked up, and I had just been looking for some type of yarn fiber type store, found you online, and coming in here, it was life-changing. And this was early times, and so
A smaller version too.
yes,
Yeah.
and so now you've expanded. Can you talk about what's going on in the back? You've got some space back
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Our classroom. A few years back, I was able to occupy more lease space on the building that we're in. My classroom, which had housed 2 people and myself, turned into this usable space. We can work with as many as 8 or 10 people at a time, and so sewing classes, knitting class, all that stuff always has to be small, because of the one-on-one part of it. But because of that, we also are open to groups. Like, groups have formed here and then taken off and landed other places. Like, people make friends back there and then meet on their own. And so it's a little challenging for me, because I'm like, that's mine. But no, my job is to set it free, like, be that safe place for people to find each other and then launch.
Oh, that's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. And then also in the holiday season, November, December, what's going on back there?
Right, right. So because that's a quiet time for classes, nobody's taking classes, we use that space. And between 13 and 16 of my customers who are makers or who have become semi-professional makers get to sell there. So we co-op a sale where a few people who are in the group sit it and help sell it, and everybody just takes turns over the course of a month, and they get to sell what they make.
And many times, if not every time, they have incorporated different things that they've purchased from in
Oh,
here.
for sure, for sure. Yeah. The goal, you have to be a customer of mine. You don't get to come down from the moon. Yeah, you're part of the posse before. Yeah.
And so when someone comes in here, they can find every type of textile supply possible, from new to used. So how do you get the used things, the previously owned?
By any means necessary, and if I tell you, I have to kill you afterwards. No, so I tap every resource. I have people who shop for me and bring in. I have people who are cleaning out stashes from a lifetime's worth. People say things like, I'm not going to live long enough to use the stuff that I have. And so I get things donated. I buy, sell, and trade just like a used record store. I'm out in the world combing, and I've got friends from other countries, and I drive far sometimes to bring in stuff. But I think the kind of collective understanding of what I'm doing here is so supported, because if you need to sell it to me because you need money, I'm buying. If you can afford to donate to me because you don't need money, you're giving it to me. But what we're doing is we're keeping this stuff out of the waste stream, because a lot of our kids are not interested in this, and when we go, it's going into a dumpster, and that just makes your stomach hurt to think about that. So I'm an end source for some people. Like, I take estates, but I also buy from around the world. Like, India is just getting their tariff thing with us sorted out. That's been an interesting challenge. But Japan is a great resource. India is the resource for textiles, especially the kind of pre-owned, reuse, upcycled tone that has always been so prevalent in India. And so I do shop from new sources, so that we have I want us to have everything. But there's some places, some things that are never going to show up pre-owned, like white cotton voile. We need that. And you need to buy it new because it gets dirty and dingy and weird, and it wears down, and people need it for curtains and linings. And so I do fill in, like that too, so that it's a little more full service.
Yeah, and I remember one time I was in here a few years ago, someone had brought in, it was like a brown taffeta from the 1800s.
Oh, it had come over on a covered wagon. Yes, that was so cool. It was 2 pieces. It was brown. It had velvet on the bottom to keep the dust from getting up the skirt. This thing was so considered. And this woman was like, I don't know what to do with this. And so we hung it up and we talked about it, and it created conversations, and it made people talk to each other. It was phenomenally interesting. And the little hooks were starting to rust, and oh, that was good.
So that's the thing. When someone comes in here, you never know what you're going to find, but you will also have consistency. So, there's just, you're bridging this beautiful gap between the upcycled scrappers, kind of like me, and then the people that are doing fully tailored garment, wardrobes. So what can people do that don't live near here, that can't just wander in from the parking lot? How can
Sure.
people connect?
Well, you know, I have a shoppable website. It isn't everything in the store, unfortunately. It's kind of the staples, you know, threads and needles and newer sourced fabrics, things that I can replace and keep up. My book collection, which is big. I have a phenomenal library here. Phenomenal. And so you can do that through slowfiber.com, but we get a lot of tourism, a lot of textile tourism. I just hosted a private sale party on Tuesday where a group of women had come in. There were 20 of them, and they were shopping their little hearts out, like talking and loving each other and encouraging each other. And so I've done that. I'm a destination. People will get in cars in groups and they will come. And so that's the probably the best way to do it. And all of the kind of really juicy, meaty, pre-owned stuff that happens here, not available any other way but in the brick and mortar.
Yeah, and Monterey being, you know,
So
one of the most beautiful areas in the
so,
world. I was in here once and there was a couple and the guy was golfing at Pebble Beach. And for him, that was the Disneyland. But for her, she was so excited to be here. And so they equally got to enjoy this time in this area. Yeah. So one thing that I really admire about what you're doing, in addition to everything else, is your environmental stewardship. So can you talk about the name Slow Fiber and,
Sure.
and how that came about?
Right. And before I forget this, I'd like to add, Rada Weaver in San Francisco has a database of all the creative reuse stores across the United States. I think she's also done Canada. So that's something like we are considered creative reuse. If you're looking for a search term, stores like me are popping up all over the country. Yeah, in various ways. Some are non-profits, some are for-profit, some are donation only. Only a few of us are doing this mixed thing because it's too much behind the scenes work, but it feels important. But back to your question. Slow fiber, you know, the tone of that phrase kind of follows the Italian slow food movement that started some years back, where it was important to kind of get back into our bodies and redeveloping agency, you know, learning how to manage your kitchen and not go to the finished food counter all the time was sort of the nature of slow food. Well, that became the nature of slow fiber. But for me, it started as an art project. In 2017, I started a project called the Slow Fiber Project. I'm a practicing conceptual artist who happens to work in textiles. And so that's, I think, where my kind of unusual foundation comes from. So this is a result of that exploration. So at that time, this project was me trying to figure out how to get out of the fast fashion network because I wanted it all. I didn't care where it came from. My closet has a vanishing point. It's so big, you know? And so for me to figure out how to rein that in a way that didn't feel so out of control. And I know a lot of people suffer from this. They're like, well, if I just had a pair of purple shoes to go with that suit. And so there's this endless search for building this imaginary closet that's going to save your life somehow. And that's not the case. What I felt like I needed to understand was how to have a closet that I could own forever. Organic, fair trade, upcycled, recycled, hitting as many markers as possible. So I spent the next 5 years building a closet, maybe 125 to 150 things, scarves, sweaters, pants, shirts, things like that, that all answered that call. Everything, and nobody got harmed in the making of this closet, finally. Right, and that felt right. So from that, I needed to, at that time, also came to a juncture in my life where I needed to get a life. My circumstances were changing, and I realized that I'm not the only one suffering from this. And I've always had a stash like this in my house. So I took on the space, brought my stash in and sold it, and started building slowly this from that.
And to wrap things up, if you could offer some advice for someone to give them a baby step, because like you said earlier, insecurities abound and we're always thinking we're not good enough and imposter syndrome kicks in and we just don't know what to do. So what would you say is a baby step that you could have someone do?
Right. Okay. So I think I call it the gateway drug, but I think hand stitching. Because I learned to sew on a sewing machine when I'm 8. I didn't learn to hand stitch till about 5 years ago. And now it's all I want to do. I want to make all my clothes one stitch at a time. I'm not in this mad rush to have a bunch of stuff. But if you can get a grip on hand stitching and do your homework on content, which we understand in ag, which we understand that what things are made of really matters. So develop some understanding about fiber content, you know, stick with the naturals, stay away from cotton if you can. I know it's a weird thing to say, but you know, cotton is a thirsty, pesticide-ridden thing. So understanding materials, and then learn to hand sew. You know, make napkins, then make a bag, then make another bag, then make another bag, then make a shirt. You know, look for those helpers out there. Companies like 100 Acts of Sewing, who has a very simple line of patterns, who anybody can do with a little bit of patience and the willingness to do something twice. And that's the other thing you need to do. Be willing to do something twice, because the first time you do it, it's going to kind of suck. The second time you do it, it's not.
And to kind of tap into what you said, it's also community. Look for the helpers. I mean,
Look for
let's
the
channel
helpers.
Mr. Rogers right now, right? We always
yes,
could do that.
yes,
So it's
yes.
building that community. And like you said, it could be, it doesn't have to be you. It could be someone listening, someone watching right now could say, you know, I've got 3 friends and we're all kind of going through something right now. Maybe we could try doing something new, something different.
Do it together.
Do it together.
Do it together. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Jaki, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. This
All
is
right.
super.
You've been closed for a while now, so
Yes.
the zombie hordes are going to start showing up
They
very
are
soon.
here. They are here.
And in a little bit, you've got your sewing group is
Yes,
going to be
my
here?
garment hive will be here any minute, and we are each other's that group. We get together and we help each other over the hurdles and the bumps and the what do I do about, and I'm so deep into this, how do I fix, like that.
All right. Well, we're going to go play around in your shop right now. So thank you so much for sharing
thank
your
you.
time and your space.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks.